Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Kaga. So, gonna get this right off the bat. We're continuing our little session in the German battleships. And last time we covered the Tier 3 German battleship, the Nassau. So it's only natural that we're going to continue this trend with the Tier 4 German battleship, the Kaiser. Now, you can go anywhere on the forums and you will see any number of comments about this ship. The first is you might see it's crap. You might see a kind of snide remarks on the order of, well, we'll see how long it takes you to play this before you just want a free XP past it. You see people just say, well, I skipped it, aka free XP, and things like that. And it comes down to, well, why? And I have my theories on that. But before I dive into that, I want to tell you about today's video. It's going to be a little bit longer than some of the more recent videos have been. And I have a good reason for this. I want to show you two games in the Kaiser. The first one, the one you're currently watching, is what I would consider fairly average gameplay. This is gameplay that's not particularly hard for anyone to achieve, and I make no shortage of mistakes. Things are not perfect. I'm not a perfect BB player, so sorry. There's going to be mistakes. This one is much more normal in the level of mistakes that I make. More common ones, you know, all the good stuff. And the second gameplay is, well, it's not perfect, but it's a higher level of play than what you're going to see here. So, now that you're familiar with what I hope to do with this video, I'm going to continue on and talk about this ship, its general format, and, ooh, I love them citadels. The AP ammunition, you know, it's underwhelming at Tier 4 with a max damage of 8,400 per AP citadel penetration. But it seems to get the job done. It's very fast in terms of the actual shell velocity. The accuracy is a little trollish, but it's not that bad for a Tier 4 battleship. It's not uncommon for shots to bracket, so if you looking outside the secondary armament, which is actually quite one of the attractive parts of this ship, I believe you can get it like 4.5 kilometers stock engagement range for your secondary battery, and you can start shredding things up really quickly with this if you equip basic fire training, AFT if you are that kind of person. So it does beg the question, well, what is it about this ship that people hate? Well, it comes down to a few things. One, I think we're all used to that glorious 10,000, 11,000 damage AP citadel penetration that this thing is just not capable of shoving out. We're used to armor piercing that over-penetrates things, does good amounts of damage. It can penetrate at weird angles. This stuff, not so much. I'm going to say that a lot of people have issues with those turrets, particularly the number 2 and number 3 turrets in the midship between the boiler smokestacks on the secondary fighting deck just behind the bridge. And I'm going to say that because they're off-center. What this means is that on either side of the ship, you have approximately a 15-degree arc where you can bring a full broadside onto. And even then, that's probably an overstatement now that I'm actually looking at the model itself. And what I'm actually noticing with the little indicator bubbles on the compass rose in the lower left-hand side of the screen is probably closer to about 10 degrees on either side of the ship. They are not symmetric, and that creates a personality that means that you're going to have to manage that when you are driving the ship. Now, for me, I use these wing turrets, the number 2 and number 3, to certain effect. I really do prefer to advance with the port side of the ship facing the enemy, and I like to retreat with the starboard side of the ship facing the enemy. This is my personal preference, and the reason is that I feel that in doing this, it maximizes my power going forward in an advance and maximizes it in reverse during an egress. So, thus far, this match has been nothing terribly special. You've seen all kinds of wonderful RNG goodness. You have seen this ship just generally, it does the shotgun bit. I'm gonna throw this salvo at this deity. I'm not expecting jack shit to come out of this. You pardon my tongue, but what? Captain, you said nothing when I was pegging some of those things earlier. What? Seriously. RNG, can you be a little nicer to me? It's not making me feel good right now. RNG. That's the other thing, is that the dispersion values, at least for me, once you remove the idiosyncrasies of the ship format and its personality from the equation of your woes, there's the inconquerable dispersion that we must contend with in order to do well. I have no idea why, when I point this thing at big ships this round, it couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, or in this case, a battleship. I point it at a destroyer and it can find its way there, and why me? Okay, my RNG is good. I'm keeping those guns pointed firmly at this guy. Okay. Test your luck there, destroyer. Test your luck. Oh. I don't know if I feel good on the inside for that. It's not because it killed him, it's not because of there, but because RNG just takes a giant shit on me sometimes when I'm playing battleships. This one seemed to be much more sporadic in this game, and it just did not make me feel good. You hear that bounce? It wasn't just a bounce. One of the shells disintegrated on another Kaiser's armor. Okay. Game. Please. Please. That shot was reasonable. Okay. I'm gonna try this again. I know that you're probably wanting me to do something on the order of aim for the belt, try to get it in there, but at the same time, it just doesn't work with this ship doing it that way sometimes. You have to aim above the primary belt to get the shots to do interior destruction. And that's something that you should have figured out with the Nassau, but at times, even that one is a hard one to pull off. You can't really do that consciously, and that guy just put up. Remember what I said about putting that shot in the upper armor above the main belt? Yeah, I just felt that sting from an enemy Koenig. I'm gonna finish that salvo and promptly make big steps the other way as fast as this big old boat can make happen. Alright, here we go. So, we're actually managed to It may not have seemed like we were able to pull it back, no big damage numbers in any single salvo, but we've somehow managed to pull this up to about 50,000 and change damage-wise. Alright, here we go. Yeah. 2772 is a number you see a lot with this caliber of gun in the German line. You see it a lot. That really awkward penetration that does damage and not a hell of a lot of it at that. It's not the 3,000 you're used to seeing when you're using the Myogi, the Kongo, the Fuso, the Wyomings, the New Yorks. What? Confederate? What? What? And it was about this time that I came to the horrible realization that somewhere in the great wisdom of how I was playing this, in this particular game, how the game itself, through RNG, was expressing its own interior will, whatever that may be, and whatever malicious intent came about from the summation of both my team and the enemy team, that I was only ever going to get the chance to kill destroyers this game. And I'm in a battleship. And the last one left on the enemy team is in fact a destroyer. Oh my god. Am I ever gonna get into range of this guy? Well, the minimap says I should be, but I don't know if he's still going to be spotted, i.e., I don't know if the Allied carrier, or the Allied Zuiho in this case, is going to survive the onslaught of what is either a Kamikaze R, or a Fujin, or one of the other Minekaze clones. So, yeah, that's a thing. And he's just disappeared. With him being that close to the Allied carrier, it can only mean one thing. He's deployed a smoke screen. And for some reason, I can't see it. He's somewhere in there. Lessai. Oh, wait. I'm in a German battleship. Why am I going Lessai? So here I am, just sitting there waiting for hide or hair of said destroyer to appear from out of this smoke screen. And up there he is, right on cue, only to get slapped in the face by the secondary batteries of that Zuiho. So that wasn't a particularly amazing round, right? It's pretty average, at least from my experience of driving the Kaiser. So I'm going to save the post-battle results for after the gameplay because, you know, I don't think that putting that intermission is going to be particularly nice of a segue between the two games. So we're going to go right into this one. In future videos, I may change that. Let me know in the comments what you think. So here we are. Again, this is the Kaiser. Now, again, this is not a tier 4 match. This is one of those all too common matches that you will find yourself in with tier 5s. The difference here is that there are more of a tangible presence to the tier 5 battleships in this game. In particular, the one that I'm kind of dreading right now is an enemy Kongo. Now, if you read the stuff on the tin, the Kongo is more accurate, it's harder hitting, it's faster, it's more maneuverable. I really want to stay away from that Kongo. Why I'm driving to A, I have no idea, considering that in hindsight, there was really only one place any Kongo captain with half a brain would go, and that is to A, because of the long, uninterrupted arcs of fire that he can, or she, can have at their command in a regime of of near impunity from occupying the D1, D2, C1, C2 block all the way to the end of the map if they deploy their float plane and they position correctly. And they'd be damn hard to dislodge from that position if they were allowed to get in there and angle themselves. So what we need to do here is pretty simple. Point bow where we want to go. Press W and get ourselves into range. Now, the boss that I'm expecting hasn't arrived yet, so there's no real harm trying to find some pot shots on enemies that have decided to entrench themselves. In particular, this Omaha looks interesting, and that's when I notice the enemy torpedo bombers. Now, if you've been watching or had watched my previous video on the Nassau, or you're familiar with the other German battleships through other YouTube videos, you would be familiar with the fact that they do not take torpedo damage very well, which is kind of ironic considering how many torpedoes were been fired at a German battleship of any fame. How many of them actually led to significant structural damage to the vessels that were struck, and how many pieces of ordnance actually led to their sinkings. Very interesting that way, huh? So, again, I've also talked about one of the characteristics of these low-tier German battleships is that they're quite maneuverable. And yes, this is a low-tier match. Those were not manually dropped torpedoes, so it's expected we would dodge most of them, but we were able to, thanks to the maneuverability of the Kaiser. We could have done this in the Nassau, but as we already discussed, the Nassau doesn't ever really find itself in a position versing carriers to make use of this ability. The Kaiser is maneuverable enough that we were able to thread the auto drop positions of those enemy bombers. Now, likewise, we would have probably gotten away with maybe one torpedo hit in a manually drop scenario, but I haven't been... Actually, I think I have had that tested once. And I think that was the result I've noticed. So right now, the odds in this end are looking pretty grim. We see the enemy Congo, the boss, has appeared. We see an enemy Wyoming coming around the corner. We see an enemy Myogi in the background. There's still that Omaha to worry about. Things are not looking up here. The Allied cruiser has decided to start taking really big steps the other direction, trying to egress, but in having to evade that position, he was left wide open, and that, you know how that's going to end up. Now, I have an advantage over a lot of these captains right now that I'm versing off with. And it comes down to, if you look in the lower part of the screen, that you will see the healing ability has charge number 4 associated with it. The German battleship captain should have superintendent on board all the time. Your first 3-point skill in these ships should be superintendent, because you are trying to close the distance and to get into what is your effective point and shoot and penetrate range under enemy fire, under heavy enemy fire, and you can't always rely on islands and the presence of teammates to do this. Now, you can make use of your armor, it'll do some effect, and I will demonstrate this later, but it's better to have the extra charge of that heal. Now, I have my own thoughts on that. Specifically, some of the builds that you can choose on this, but that's your own decision. I doubt you're going to have the Kaiser for very long, because, you know, it's the Kaiser. It's tier 4. Most people get the tier 4 only to get the tier 5, to get the tier 6, and onwards, and I think most people will only be keeping, like, the tier 3, the tier 7, the tier 8. I have it on good authority that the tier 10 is reasonably fun if played correctly in the right circumstances, but I've also heard it's kind of meh under less than ideal circumstances. Now, I have no idea where that shot went. That one looked right. Let's try more or less the same shot, and it goes right there. I don't know. The center of fall of shot was up. So, we've beaten the boss. Alright, I've got a few guns up. Let me turn the hull. And that's something that you can do in the Kaiser and get away with, unlike a lot of other battleships, because the armor is very sturdy. Bam! Punish him. And as fast as that, we've turned what was a very dire situation. And by the way, you will note at the minimap, we're basically unsupported right now. Now, one of the skills you're going to want to learn for all of your German battleships, it doesn't matter whether you're on the Nassau right now, you're on the Kaiser, you're on the König, the Bayern, the Gneisenau, or the Gneisenau, whichever one you prefer, pronunciation before, the Scharnhorst, the Bismarck, the Friedrich der Große, or the Grosse Kurfürst. All of these do not have amazing penetration. You can still Citadel people, but you're going to find yourself in a position where you want to be able to deal with the onslaught of bow-on meta or angled meta. And one of the things that you can do, and it becomes a little harder as you go up in the tiers because armoring schemes got better, historically speaking. Now, one of these things is you look for shot traps and you try to put your center of shot so it lands right there. And what you can do, and by doing that, is you saw me engage that Wyoming, I think it was a Wyoming, is I gave him the illusion I citadeled him with that strike. And in fact, I actually did more damage to him than a single or even a double citadel through that, which is kind of weird. You think about that, right? But, you know, that's the power of all those penetrating hits and the over-penetrations combining together. Good stuff. Now, when I first came across this person, it was a little weird to me, okay? I had this suspicion this person was AFK. Now, could have been AFK. Could have come back all of a sudden. But watch what happens all of a sudden right now. Right? Okay, I turned to look at the incoming planes, try to determine the threat level. Is there anything else over there? Now, all of a sudden, I'm in automatic engagement range. I didn't see anything in chat. That's suspicious to me. Oh, great. More torpedoes. And I'm on fire in 2 places. So, I'm gonna do that typical battleship thing of holding my pressing of the R key till I'm certain I've cleared enough of them that I will not incur flooding for too long. Now, I managed to actually clear both of them through a little bit of rudder and throttle management. Now, you can do whatever you want when it comes to dodging torpedoes. It's your own instinct, right? Now, again, remember that discussion of shot traps? Yeah, there's plenty of them if you know where to look on the certain sections of enemy vessels. And seriously? High explosive? You're firing high explosive at me? Oh, I'm gonna punish you for that. What the bleep? Thank you, secondaries. That is enough beer, gunners. That is enough. The secondary crew can have their beer. But main battery gunners, you need to work on that a bit more before you get beer ration. Now, I'm not gonna really do that much more in this battle. There's one more thing that I'm gonna talk about in respect to this particular gameplay before I transition to more general discussions of this ship and some of the other things that I have come to mind as I have been recording this and planning to record it. Now, here's that moment. So, put 2 turrets out, nice tight spread. You put in a good lead and you can really hurt anything that is weakly armored with these guns. And as you see, it just gave us a good solid 17,000 damage with that. Actually, I think it was like, well, if it was 17,000, it's that and 2 sits and a overpen somewhere in there. Anyway, not a big deal, right? So that's pretty much it for this particular gameplay. I'm going to spend the rest of this time trying to get into range and dodging torpedoes, but you can study that without me talking about it. You've seen me do it already numerous times in the course of this replay. Now, I want to talk about this particular ship, and now I know a lot of people have recommended free XPing past it, but I really enjoyed this ship. I don't know what it is about it, but I enjoyed it. And I did pretty well in it. Now, I'm trying to remember these numbers off the top of my head, so they may not be correct, but over the course of 26 battles, I was able to finish this grind without premium time with a like 73% win rate and an average damage somewhere in the neighborhood of 58,000 per game. That's doing pretty damn well. And I think that comes down to is, at least for me, is that when I looked at this ship, it was a challenge to me. It was something I wanted to master. I don't think a lot of people really and truly want to do that. Now, you can beg to differ. But for me, there's ease of grinding, and then there's, and by ease of grinding, I mean it's the occasional use of premium time. Admittedly, when it came to, when it's coming to the Koenig, I'm using it because, you know, I'm also getting the, some footage for some Scharnhorst gameplay, and that thing got bundled up with some premium time at where the point that the premium time was like 70% off, and that's just a good deal any way you want to spell it. So, got that. And there's making the grind easier, and of course there's also, you know, removing the grind altogether. For me, I don't know how I feel about removing the grind altogether, because there are a lot of things that this ship can teach someone. In particular, it's kind of that lesson that Japanese battleship captains have when they reach the Fuso, and it's all about to do with discipline. Just because you can make the ship turn a certain way to bring all your major caliber gun turrets to bear doesn't mean that you should. So this is the result screens for the first round I showed you, and as you can see, Wasn't a particularly good match in terms of the damage numbers. No great numbers of citadels. Not that you ever come to this channel for that anyway, because, you know, I'm not a battleship captain. I just play them because, you know, why not? They're in the game. Sometimes it's good to play the other ships just to see how they are, see their limitations, help you take them down better. But we did get a number of really good target hits there, a few kills, the Confederate Award, good stuff, and, you know, more importantly, silver. Credits are good. And, you know, I think overall our team did pretty well this match. Nothing special by me, but sometimes that's all you really need. You go into the team play mode, you're not really doing anything big, you're not doing anything particularly outstanding, you're not doing the giant ass numbers of damage, you're not hauling in massive numbers of kills. Instead, it's just lots of little work, little bits here and there that lead to the end. And I think that is very reflected in the more detailed reports that we got from this match. And as you can see, it's, with one exception, there's not a lot of any damage on any one particular ship. It's just a little bit here, a little bit there, just adding up over time. And, you know, RNG may have been a massive dick to us on some of those shots that just looked so good and just fell just that little bit short. And at the same time, we came out with almost 66,000 damage between all of our shells, which, by the way, on the North American server, that is about 1 1/3 times the server average damage for this ship right now. So, well, I think that was crap. And while RNG certainly didn't let me do what I wanted it to do, and maybe my own abilities limited that even further, we still did pretty well. And, you know, maybe that's that. Not that we can really do anything to change that. And of our gross received and all the repair stuff, we did pretty well. Not a lot of mission payout, but did pretty good. I can't complain with 1,200 experience getting shoved into the pocket to help the grind, because while I like this ship, I do want to move up the line, and I do want to be able to bring you guys content as fast as possible. And part of my talking about them is also talking about the grind. The Kaiser is definitely one of those, I've noticed, you love it, you hate it. If you can adapt to it, you love it. If you can't, well, yeah, you probably won't love it. Now, if matches like that are not your cup of tea, we also have this one, and we did a lot better in this one. Just about double the amount of damage that we did. The previous match, almost 131,000 damage. We fired those guns a lot. We had that stretch in the middle of this match where it was almost like killing an enemy ship every about minute and a half. Every minute and a half. Right there when we crossed over the alpha point and literally grabbed them by the throat. Or, as it would be coined in like historical terms, we gave them Rattenkrieg. Pardon my use of German, but that is the closest word I can come up with to describe the style that seems to really, really resonate with these battleships. And some of my best results, not only in the Nassau, but also in the Kaiser and the Koenig and the Scharnhorst. And of course, now that I'm a little bit more aware of this in the Torpets as well, have been in this style, and my god, it's amazing. It's amazing, and it's great fun. I'm looking forward to the Bayern, the Gneisenau, the Bismarck, and the Friedrich der Große, and the Grosse Kurfürst. Now, and I just had this random thought in my head: is that the same like Kurfürst as in like the nickname for the BF 109K series? Someone please, it's too early in the morning for me to ponder looking that up online, so please let me know in the comments if that is actually in fact the case. Anyway, about the results, no surprise, that the Zuihol on our team was fantastic. He not only was doing damage, sinking enemy ships, downing enemy planes, and also capturing the points, something the Kaiser really can't do because of its slow speed. And oh yeah, speaking of the speed, I totally forgot about this until I mentioned that specifically. The when you're trying to grind through this to get to the Koenig, do not waste your time researching the upgraded engines. All you might now be asking why. Because it only improves the speed by 0.7 knots. No. In no way is that a good thing to do, because that is a really good match that you have to add on to your grind to the Koenig. Just don't. And 0.7 knots, it sounds like crap, and you might be tempted to look at it from the perspective of the fact that we're dealing with, tier 4 ships, and its max speed is like 23-ish knots. But even then, just doing some quick math here on that, and you come up with absolutely crap differences here in terms of the absolute performance. It's 3%. 3%, okay? That means that out of 100 kilometers, you will have traversed an additional 3 with that in the same span of time with that upgraded engine. And we're not in marathons. We're not doing that type of action. Granted, yes, you can look in your detailed reports and find out that your ship supposedly traverse something like 60-70 kilometers in the course of a given match if you're not utterly nuked in it. But even then, it's just not necessary. At least that's my personal opinion. You can let me know in the comments if that is something you would have done or something you would have preferred to use. Anyway, I think that's enough for the Kaiser. I hope you're going to look forward to the Koenig. I'm going to do the thing on the Koenig in a slightly different style. Please let me know what works. I probably will have something on Facebook or in Google Plus to handle the feedback on that. So please let me know, and look forward to the next episode on this. So thank you, and have a good day.